don't do manifestation. You have to be very, very active in the things that you want. I call the process tranifestation. Okay, so Dani, as you know, there is a Mr. Nalea in the picture. And, you know, we've been talking for a little bit. He's been overseas because he's like a military guy, but he came back home, surprised me. It was this huge, cute thing, whatever. But he then took me to see a couple's psychic because I'm a spooky girl. And mind you, we haven't seen each other in like several months now. Have you ever been to a psychic by chance?
I have not. I've not.
Do you think they're real? Be very honest.
No, I don't.
Okay. So, this shit had me like. First of all, we go into the psychic room. I'm very much a big believer of these things. And we sit down, and I think that these people are definitely, like, if they're frauds, they're body language experts, right? So we sit down, he immediately starts reading us. And he does this thing where he takes his tarot cards and he's like shuffling around, and every 2 seconds he's going smack, smack. And I'm immediately like grabbing his leg and turning around because I'm like afraid to laugh so that he doesn't give us a bad reading or whatever. And he goes, okay, you know, Mr. Nalea, let's talk about you. You're a big people pleaser. I was like, yeah, he is. And then he goes to me and he goes, you're the dominant one in the relationship. And I'm like, if you can imagine like a big ass military man, like they don't want to hear that. And so I was like immediately off put by that. The psychic then goes into, it's like an hour and a half of a reading, goes into very specific things about me. He says, and you tell me how he would know this. Okay. Some of this stuff is whatever. He says, I have 3 streams of income, is what he told me. He said, I'll have a very successful year by the end of the year. He says, my birthday, which is in November, is going to be super fun. He says that this guy brings like a lot of like insight into our relationship. He mentions that there's going to be a Europe trip planned sometime early next year, which I was like, what are you talking about? And these are the 2 specific things he said. The psychic reader said that I was like, this is like, how do you fucking know this? So at one point he goes, there's Florida energy. I go, I don't know what that's about. And neither did Mr. Nalea. We were just sitting there like, no, there isn't. Okay. I hang out with my best friend like a day later. I'm like, he kept on saying something about like Florida, comedy show, Florida. And she goes, bitch, aren't you going to Florida for work next month? How would he know that? Where would that come from? I was gagging. Then the other thing that he said that I was like, okay, that is like oddly specific. He goes, is there a Scorpio in your life right now? And I go, yeah, my best friend's a Scorpio. He goes, yeah, she's not going through a very good time right now. How do you know that? Right? Couple more things. I'm like, I'm saying this all on camera because if it all comes true, we'll have this as a reference point, right?
Yeah, we have it on record.
We have it on record. He said there was something big career happening in December. Big. And then he said, oh, what was the other thing that he said? Oh, this one's specific. He goes, yeah, it seems like you have some distance with your family. And your sister's going to tie in, your mom's going to tie in. And basically he was saying that my sister is going to inform me that my mom is sick. Very strange. On his side, also a lot of very specific things. The most specific thing that they said was, I'm coming to like ground him in his relationship. He'll have a location. He also has a big decision in December. He has to be open-minded about where he wants to live. I've made a few jokes about living in Colorado. Um, and he's one of the things he said was, "There's you have two best friends." And I look at him, and the answer is right. He goes, "In order to really thrive in this relationship, you're going to have to put boundaries with the best friends." I'm like, how did he know the specific number of two? Two male best. I don't know. Maybe all of this shit is common, but it was just like there was a lot of stuff in there that was just as I was like going through it, I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. That's a lot of stuff.
So, did Mr. Nalea book an appointment, or was this ad hoc?
He booked an appointment. He was that day. He long story short, we like haven't seen each other for months. He told me he was going to get home in May, and I always, if you're a trans girl listening, my biggest thing about dating any man is that if you're not ready to introduce me to your family or your friends, then I'm not going to date you. Why? I'm fucking 32 years old. Like, get on or get off. I'm not going to do that. And so he calls me. This is what in the middle of us filming. He's like, "Hey, stay at home, look good. Um, I'm gonna have a surprise for you on Sunday." This man mails me stuff all the time. He'll mail me flowers and gifts, and he'll send things to my house. I'm like, maybe he bought me a bag and he wants me to take a picture with it. I don't know. I feel myself reacting to it. He calls and he is like, "Hey, surprise! Your my sister is waiting for you at Starbucks." Which, big deal. Introducing me to the sister. That's family. That's huge. I go to the sister. She has a bag full of gifts. I'm, looking at the bag. I'm like, "Yay!" We go outside, and I'm pulling the gifts. She's like looking at me. This man comes up from behind me and goes, "Boo!" And I turn around, and I'm like, "Oh my God, he's here like 2 weeks early." It's just this huge romantic moment. We're hugging and kissing, and then he takes me to that surprise, and then we go to a concert later that night. Like, absolutely magical.
Yeah, when I saw the video, like, he did good. That was a fantastic surprise. Um, so
Yeah.
let's circle back to this psychic. How many times have you been to a psychic before?
Several times. So I went to one in Columbus, Ohio, where I'm from, who was incredibly accurate, charged me $20, predicted my college boyfriend, how he looked, also predicted maybe a year and a half before this happened, predicted that I would be having huge fights with my family, which at that time I was a golden child. That never happened. Um, and I would have an enormous falling out over my ego. Um, and then I go to an astrologer at least every other year that I've recommended to several of my friends, and they have gone as well.
So my question about astrology, it goes by the pattern of the stars, right? Because the stars make up your astrological sign. The universe is expanding, so wouldn't those positions change?
I don't know if the expansion is so large that within, several hundred years it would change that astronomically, but perhaps, I don't know. I think all of that magic-y stuff, like whether you're reading tea leaves or, whatever else you're doing, the premise of it is all things are fundamentally connected. So if you believe that there's an ever powerful universe or God, then there's little patterns unseen all over the place, and there are multiple ways of coming onto those patterns. So I guess it's one of them.
That I do believe. We follow patterns with like Fibonacci ratios, and there's a lot of patterns that we imitate over and over again. So yes, I do believe that. And I do believe like there is power in the universe and everything is giving off energy.
And if you're praying, I'm not like a big religious person, but if you're praying, that's like basically you trying to have telepathic communication with whatever universal power. So if logically, if you believe that there is some sort of supernatural universal power and that you can commune with it, then logically there are some people who are more skilled at communicating with that power than other people. Your average Joe isn't very skilled, but um, with that said, I do believe that a vast majority of spiritual people are grifters and fakes, and so you have to have a little bit of discernment in order to engage with them. And I think you got to take every engagement with a grain of salt. I'm a woman of science as well.
Yeah, this guy has definitely read what everybody's saying, the body language book, multiple times. But also, so like to that grifter point, when you think about a coincidence, like it's not that far fetched because like universe has existed for like 14 billion years. So like it may seem random, but a lot can happen in 14 billion years. So it's not really that random.
I'll also add, take astrology with a grain of salt too. Like, it's all predicated on the Barnum effect. So anytime you like read the news, the Barnum effect is basically you reading a description of something and forcefully applying it to yourself, no matter what it is. And if you could almost read any different type of astrological whatever and relate to it in some way. So I think a lot of very gullible people fall prey to that. I utilize my spirituality as a way to be strong and achieve my goals. Like, it benefits me to believe that there's like a powerful benefactor that's watching my every move and looking over me. It benefits me to believe in the law of attraction. Um, and it benefits me to believe that I can predict with some level of accuracy what's going to happen in the future. So I exploit those things. If they end up not being true, so be it. But spiritually speaking, I'm quite satisfied.
Do you have any horoscopes that you like to follow?
Um, my astrologer, her name is Tracy L. Rogers. She has hundreds of 5-star reviews on Yelp, which are hard to get by business owners. So I follow her page, and then I like Chani Nicholas because she's a lesbian, and all of her writing is queer. It's revolutionary. It's very like, wokey lib type of stuff, but I do like it. What about you? Do you read any of that stuff?
Can you read me a Virgo horoscope right now? Let's do it.
Yeah. So this is from Chani's page. Forward momentum might be harder to access today. Progress could feel like a wheel turning through deep mud. So, if your date with your bestie or beloved unravels, take a beat. Miscommunications and delays are an invitation to reassess, realign, and reorganize time together. In the meantime, don't force an outcome. Frustrating, perhaps, but thwarted plans are an opportunity to work with disappointment and creativity to adapt. Plus, if your one on one time is rescheduled, you'll gain some extra hours to sync up with yourself. Get flexible.
Uh,
We're on here, we're recording.
I know, and we're doing a double feature today, so I don't know. Maybe there's something in the cards. Is that for today only, though? Do
That
we
it,
have like is there like a new moon or something? Like, what do I have for the new moon coming up?
what do I have for the new moon coming up? I don't fucking know. How would I find that? Um, Virgo. No, she only does daily horoscopes. I'm sure they're over here somewhere. New moon in Virgo 2024.
Is Moon Omen? I think that's a page on Instagram. I don't know the validity of it though.
I feel like that's like more like all you got to take all of it with a grain of salt. Let me read mine too from this lady and see if it like resonates in any capacity. Mine is going to say you're a dumb bitch and you've been lazy all weekend and you need to get back to work. That's what it's going to say. Okay, let's see. Scorpio and Scorpio rising. Like a wheel stuck in the mud, forward momentum is harder to come by today. So if your date plans get scrambled or you feel like lost in your way with an artistic process, take a beat. There's no need to force an outcome. Frustrating? Maybe, but any thwarted plan is also an opportunity to work with disappointment. Get flexible. Grifter! Grifter! Just kidding.
Oh my god. That was like verbatim almost.
I don't know. Maybe there's something in the stars that's affecting everybody. No defense.
Okay. Okay. Um so let me ask you a question. This now we're gonna change subjects here. So as an astrology girly and a petite biological cis white woman, will you ever hit on a man at a bar or a club?
Oh, I constantly do that. I am a monster in public spaces. How about you?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like give me a sidecar or lemon drop and I really come out of my shell.
Oh yeah. I'm like you know how some people have like resting bitch face?
Yeah, yeah.
I have resting happy face. So I walk into any space that I'm in, shoulders back, head high. I'm like smiling. I'm like, hey, how are you? Just, bringing like good energy in the room. And it always like, I mean, the men immediately make eye contact and they're like buzzing over here. And I have no problem being a big flirt. Um, I think that like, I also have a tendency of being quite forward and I'll just say, ooh, you're cute. Just stuff like that, just really flirty. And if they're into you, you get immediate feedback. They'll respond to something. If they're not, they won't.
So you're pretty flirty like that. I like to take a little different approach that has worked well for me is like I like to roast them.
Oh, you're a flirt roaster.
Yep. Yeah, and that works pretty well too. But I think it's very situational dependent. Like I think both approaches can work and they both have their places. Um but yeah, oh my god, I could any opportunity that I get. And a lot of it is just like out of curiosity too. Like I just like striking up conversations with people at bars. Like when in doubt, take the path that's going to produce more luck for yourself, right? So like for instance, I could be sitting on the couch watching Netflix right now, or we could be filming this podcast, or like I could be going out for a drink with a friend and I really don't want to go out. So here's the thing, like when you're sitting at a bar alone, like, okay, what's going to produce more luck for yourself? Talking to a stranger or sticking to yourself like a little hermit? I would say talking to a stranger because at least you'll get like a good story out of it.
1,000%. And let me just, this is really tied in my mind to what we were talking about in our last subject. You know, psychic stuff, the universe, law of attraction, all of that stuff. In the real world, you cannot focus on manifestation. You have to go out and make things happen for yourself. A lot of the girls on here are looking for love and boyfriends and all of that stuff. Don't do manifestation. You have to be very, very active in the things that you want. I call the process tranifestation, to be honest. You got to transform yourself and then go out and do whatever it is that you're going to do. And I'm going to tell you the benefits to it. So this was in 2021 when I was like a baby trans. I started dressing femme full time. It was my first Pride. Like after I started dressing like a woman full time. We go to a club. It's full of dudes. I assumed that nobody was going to like me because, I'm transitioning out of being a gay guy and into a woman and I'm wearing all women's clothes. So I was just like loosey goosey. I had a lot of drinks or whatever. And I see everybody's shirtless. We're at like this bar, everybody's shirtless. And I see this guy who's just kind of dancing and having fun and doing his thing, but his shirt wasn't off. And I like a man that has modesty to him because I'm so immodest. I walk straight up to him. I'm like, "Aren't you cute?" And he just starts like chuckling or whatever. I'm like touching his arm. I'm making fun of him a little bit, and I'm like, "You need to take your shirt off right now. Everybody else has their shirt off over here. You need to take your shirt off." And he was like, no, 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 no. And I was like, no, yeah, you got to take your shirt off. The guy ends up not taking his shirt off. We get distracted by different people, whatever. And I go back to my corner and just do my thing. Next day, we're at a party. We're drinking, carrying along. I think I look like a bad bitch. I look like a complete brick. And I'm, doing my thing. And the guy is over there. I see him and I walk up to him and I just like, it was me from last night. I'm so sorry. And he goes, no, 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 it's okay. Next thing you know, we're waiting in line together. We all smoked a bunch because Denver smoking capital. So smoked a bunch of weed, whatever. We're waiting in line to get to a bar, and he walks past me, and I look at him, and we just have this like magical moment together. Like there's this connection there because we met twice, and I was so bold. He came up to me, and I'm like, I have a feeling we're gonna be together all night. And he goes, yeah, I have that feeling too. And Dani, when I tell you, while everything was hitting, we were drinking and smoking, I swear to God, we felt this like otherworldly connection. And all of a sudden, we're talking about what kind of a father do you want to be, and what do you want to do, and how do you want to go, and where do you see yourself in life? And he and I had the most magical night, randomly meeting. We went home together, and we dated long distance for several months. And I'm telling you, he was attractive, military guy, built, the kindest person ever. We went to breakfast together the next day, and he's telling my friends like it's my intent to be with this, and was a great guy. All of that shit happened because I was just ballsy enough to go out there, start flirting, and the right guy latched. If I didn't do any of that stuff, none of it would have happened. And I got like a really good relationship out of it.
Life is split into two categories of people: the people who make the effort, pick up the phone, talk to the stranger, and the people who just sit on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Those are the two categories of people. Um, Call that court vision, right? Like you need to see opportunities when they present themselves to you. That's
Yeah.
what that is. And we are big pro Robert Greene podcast. We
Yeah.
love his books. We love his books. So yeah, that all ties in. Um, and yeah, you can manifest, but moral of the story is that you need to take action. And you may fumble the bag like steps 1, 2, or 3, but guess what? You still have these lessons from fumbling the bag, and you are light years ahead of those people sitting on the sidelines.
1,000%. It's like when you're throwing darts, if you're at a bar, you don't hit the bullseye every single time, but that's not what makes you the winner of that game either. Like it's how often you go for it, how measured your, precision is, and then how you're doing compared to other people. Life is a video game, it's not a movie. So you have to participate and you have to put yourself out there in every aspect of in your life. I think, with a lot of the transgender discourse online, I sense that there's like two really different kind of girls. There are the go-getters that really are interested in being aggressive, finding every single angle and exploiting it and really going after what they want to at any cost. And then there are the girls who um, meditate on how bad of a life situation that they have, and they go into this like doom and gloom spiral. Everything sucks, everything's bad, they're all trying to get us or whatever. And whatever amount of truth that has in it, it's not a healthy way of looking at things, and it won't help you, and you'll never get to where you want to go. You have to be aggressive, and you have to compete. You have to compete, and the only way to do that in life, whether it's dating or whatever, is to just go for the thing that you want, regardless of whether you're scared.
That's one of the main messages of why we're doing this podcast, to try and spread that message and showing that, like, yes, you can achieve what you want to, but you need to put in the effort to do so.
This community is all about transgender women, cisgender women, and anybody else who's listening who wants to be a go-getter in life, to get what they want in life, to be able to integrate into normal society and really, really succeed. We're not interested in building a utopia that does not exist. What we want to do is be the best possible players in this game as possible. We have no other choice. You're playing in the game whether you want to or not, so you might as well win.
And you can't lose if you don't stop playing the game. So
exactly.
So speaking of utopia, if you haven't realized it by now, our government fucking hates us. And if you think that they still have your best interests at heart, I have a bridge in Baltimore I'd love to sell you. Because you are the most gullible motherfucker alive, if you actually think that. So, what happened? We had 4 bills. Okay? We had 4 bills in the House. Oh, there goes Buster. Pass easy. 3, 4, and 8 bills and a TikTok ban. They get packaged, sent to the House or sent to the Senate. What it was like 79 votes they got. Like, 60 votes to raise the minimum wage. Can't do it. But you know what? We need to fund Raytheon and Lockheed because we're low on Javelin and Hellfire missiles that can find their ways up the ass of a fucking camel from 5 miles away with the most precise accuracy, because we've been given, Ukraine weapons off the books from a slush fund due to an accounting error. So we're giving $100 billion to these 3 different countries. Oh yeah, and then by the way, the Chinese, they're going to steal our data. So we need to ban TikTok too. And they're doing it for us. The gaslighting is next fucking level. And it's absurd. It is a game to these people. And the game is to get reelected at all costs. At all costs. They do not give a rat's ass about us. They hate us. To be in a position like that, like Nancy Pelosi, you need to be inherently evil.
Yeah. A lot of things I have to say about all of that stuff. Obviously, what we're discussing is the TikTok ban. And what's the most insidious about the TikTok ban is that it was embedded into foreign aid bills that we needed to vote on. The fight in Ukraine is something that's essential. The fight in Israel, we got to talk about. But there are a lot of things happening internationally where I think it makes sense for the US to fund other armies so their men and women can fight in those wars and our interests can advance. I get all of that. The TikTok bill being a part of any of it was a move of pure corruption, because they're trying to get rid of this app for reasons that are anti-democratic and anti-capitalist. The anti-democratic part, let's start with that. This is the number one way that millennials and Gen Z people are getting the news. Not only that, the press is supposed to be a government watchdog to make sure that our government is not corrupt and is held accountable to our expectations. And where the legacy media is failing, social media is coming in and taking over. So basically, the government is getting rid of our largest social media app for sharing information efficiently. For what? What they're saying is because of Chinese data interference. We think it's bullshit. We think it's bullshit because Meta has had our data for years. Russia has interfered in our elections, and multiple countries have through Facebook. What I think is actually happening is Joe Biden and Republicans, it's a bipartisan corruption issue. They are uncomfortable with how quickly we're sharing information, and they're trying to quell the dissent against Israel Palestine. It's obviously a very, very hold on. Israel and Palestine is obviously an issue that is extremely unpopular, and the way to get rid of the dissent there is to suppress social media, and I think it's disgusting. The anti-capitalist part is also interesting because our biggest detractors for TikTok, the people who are paying to get rid of TikTok, are Meta and APAC and other special interests. It benefits Meta for TikTok to be gone, and I think that's messed up. We have a foreign company that beat us by putting out the best possible product, and now we're trying to get rid of it. Weird, very weird.
I am so happy you brought up APAC. Oh my God. I want to drill into this point. So Mike Gallagher from Wisconsin, the guy who brought this to the floor, you know who his biggest donors are? This election cycle, Palantir, Peter Thiel, Google, and then number 6 in this election cycle was APAC. Last election cycle, you know who his biggest donor was? APAC. It's a fucking joke to these people. And Joe Biden has received over $4 million from APAC. Over $4 million. It's unbelievable.
You guys, we have to admit that it is very strange that a foreign government based interest group is funding our politicians. That is weird. That is really, really weird. And how could it not lead to corruption? Also, we have a lot of campaign finance issues that are bipartisan that could help everybody if we crack down on them. We should be extremely critical and transparent about how everybody makes their money because it ultimately affects the way that people vote for issues. Are these politicians putting American interests above foreign interests or not? Because it doesn't feel like that. There's so many different aspects where I feel like the special interest groups are overtaking what actual Americans want. And we need to be more serious in participating in this process so we can figure what exactly is happening and stop it. This is a bipartisan issue that every American should be concerned about.
Here's another kicker for you. I got this one from Unusual Whales. So Mike McCall, who's been a big part of getting this bill across the finish line, he has bought $600,000 worth of Meta. And that mouth breather, what's his name? Mark Wayne Mullen. Mark Wayne Mullen bought $50,000 worth of Meta in January. It's unbelievable. Like, these people are shameless. Absolutely shameless.
That should be illegal. Like, what is up with that? And the thing is, we've been watching people do it for a while and nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. That's what they say about Nancy Pelosi all the time. Like, that insider trading type of activity is obviously corrupt and it should be outlawed. But now the question is, who's going to outlaw it? Congress? Who's gonna get rid of their term limits? Congress? Like, this is something that I feel like somebody should go and sue members of Congress for this sort of thing so that it can go up to the Supreme Court. And I think the Supreme Court will outlaw it for us because, Congress is not going to do it. I don't trust the president to do it. The only thing that'll do it is a lawsuit that ends in the Supreme Court or a higher court. Like, this cannot fly. Like, this is so obviously corrupt.
It is. It's really unbelievable. Our system is so beyond repair. It's insane. So this is where we're at. We have $100 billion in foreign aid, not for the American citizens. God forbid that we raise the minimum wage, do something about our broken healthcare system, get better education in place. God forbid we do anything to help the American people, because we need to line the pockets of these politicians. Okay, so think about this. So let me back up. The saying goes, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. What kills us, the average American, makes these politicians stronger. And they just want to keep their feet on our necks. That's it. That is it. but this is a powder keg. The people are not going to forget this. Like, I've never seen so much discourse about not paying your taxes. Like this year, like I was hearing a lot about that. And it's not just going to stop at not paying taxes. Like, it doesn't matter who's going to win the election, whether it's Biden or Trump, there's going to be riots. I will bet my bottom dollar on that. I will bet all the money in the world that no matter what, there will be riots in November.
I fully agree with that assessment. And I think we need to make a big stink about this because, you know, on my TikTok, I talk about how important it is to participate in your civic duty, voting, how we can't take the freedom that we have in this country for granted. A lot of countries in the Middle East and Africa, especially gay people in those countries, are suffering heavily. So we always have to be very actively engaged. But with all this stuff happening, especially with Biden when it comes to Gaza and TikTok, I'm over here like, do I vote for RFK to show the Democratic Party not to mess with us? Like, is that what I have to do? Do I have to go out and protest? Do I have to start making a lot of videos about Democratic corruption? Is that what I have to do in order to get the point across? Like, this is not okay. And being polite about it also is not an effective strategy of creating change. So, what do we do to get rid of that corruption? You know, like ultimately, I don't want to reward anybody for doing such a piss poor job in handling American freedom. It really, really angers me, and there has to be some sort of consequence. But we all have to think about: is the consequence getting Trump reelected? Do we want that again? It's really tough to say. The answer right now is no, but I just feel like I'm in between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, and I mean, it would only get worse if he got elected. Like I posted on my story the other day how he wants to be consulted on interest rate policy. Like, are you kidding me? Like, this man is a bombastic authoritarian who will do nothing good for this country. We are in a transitional period of global powers, and him at the helm during that is not good. Not good. I don't think it's good for Biden to be at the head of that for that matter. But Nalea, I wrote down two quotes that I wanted to read to you that I thought were really important for this conversation. So the first is from Thomas Jefferson. Our liberty depends on the freedom of the press, and that cannot be limited without being lost. Obviously, TikTok is huge for sharing information. 170 million Americans use the app. And I think that's probably like a conservative estimate. But going back to why APAC is involved, the amount of pro-Palestinian content on that app compared to pro-Israeli content is night and day. Pro-Israeli content on that app does not exist. So the second one,
Oh, sorry,
hold
go
on,
ahead.
let me finish this one. So this one is from Noam Chomsky. If we don't believe in freedom of expression for the people we despise, we don't believe in it at all. Great quote.
So when I started to post on Instagram, which was, months after I blew up on TikTok, I noticed that there was like a month plus where people could not follow me on Instagram because I was creating videos on the genocide in Palestine. So I posted, and girls would try to follow me, and they weren't able to do that, and it was like that for a month. So Meta is complicit with the government in suppressing that sort of content, and that's really what the government wants. They want to make sure that the content that's getting shared is not working against the people in power's interest. And, it's really a shame.
Yeah, the default on Meta is to support information that is political. And a lot of the content that we do is very political.
Yeah.
So to all of our listeners, make sure you are subscribed and following us so you can get fed that content, because this is important stuff to hear and to discuss. Whether you agree or disagree with us, it is important that this is brought to light. I'm riled up.
I love that for you. I'm riled up as well, but I'm trying not to sweat or get any wrinkles in my makeup today. So,
Okay. Any final words on the TikTok ban?
that's it for me.
Okay. I'm going to take a pee break, and then we're going to come back with the main segment.
Okay.
Okay, and we're back. So Nalea, before we get into our main segment, we have an ad to read. We have a brand partner. I can't believe it. It's been a month and we have a brand partner. So our partner is Tuck It Up Underwear, the best tuck on the market. So Nalea, you know that the finance bros and I get along very well, right? So thing about finance bros, they love adjusted EBITDA, and they also love trying to get tucks unadjusted. But the thing is, when I'm wearing Tuck It Up on a date with one of them, it's impossible. Everything is staying in place. You're looking Barbie. It just can't be done. It is the best, highest quality underwear out there, hands down. So we have a code for you. If you want to get 10% off your order, you can use code the Tea Girls to get the best tucking underwear on the market. And thank you to Josie for setting this up for us. We love her. She is an OG.
I'll also add, trans girls, we do not want to see your moose knuckles out in public. Please do not be up at Pride this year untucked. This is not the time or the place. I understand that we should be able to do whatever the hell that we want to, but guess what? We can't. So please utilize Tuck It Up underwear to put that shit away so that you're not on national news embarrassing all of us and getting our rights taken away. Thank you.
Yes. Gym essential too. Gym essential. So with that being a gym essential, to segue into our main topic, what we do today are beginner gym tips. So obviously one of our goals for this podcast is to help trans women live their best lives. And one of the best ways to do that is to feminize your body and just be healthy overall through fitness. So we will be going into beginner gym tips. And Nalea, I believe you have some tips for us as well.
I do. Yeah, I have a few from my experience of the gym, which I'll chime in with Dani. But I also have a guide for makeup and doing it the right way so you don't end up looking like a clown in public. That's usually what happens to all of us. And so I'll tell you exactly what not to do. I'll talk to you about what order to buy things so you don't go broke and you look good while you're trying to transition. So, and I have a written guide on it as well. So I'm really excited to share that with you guys.
Awesome. So let's get into it. The first thing that we should get out of the way is that spending time in the gym, your mileage will vary. So everyone is built different. There's going to be so many different factors: your birth sex, your age, your endocrine system, your level of training. All these things are going to be playing a factor. But also a fact, if you are spending time in the gym, you will be way further along your journey than someone who isn't doing shit in the gym. So staying consistent, given 70% intensity level in the gym for 2 years, it's going to be way better than giving 100% effort for like 2 months. So just know that this is a journey and a long process. So before we actually get into what movements to do and giving you the base level, I wanted to talk about nutrition. So, Nalea, are you familiar with nutrition standards for building muscle or like any of those recommendations?
I don't know the standards that an expert such as yourself would know. I know the pop Instagram standard. So one of the things that I always hear is you want to have, a gram of protein per pound on your body. Is that true?
To build muscle, you need to be in a surplus 99% of the time. So the recommendation, we've seen this through a lot of different studies, is for protein, we want 1.6 grams per kilogram a day, upwards of 2.2 to 2.4 grams per kilogram a day. So yeah, if it's around a pound or a gram per pound. So for me, I eat a little underneath a gram, so I'm a little over 150 right now, and my target is 140 grams of protein per day. So I'm right under that gram. You can still get by with 0.8 grams per pound. So I think, if you're in that range, you're doing yourself a good service. And then when it comes to carbs, three grams per kilogram a day. That would be the recommendation for carbs to help maximize. Okay. So now that we got nutrition out of the way, we want to talk about the training variables, right? So one of the most important things is the load. So how much you're actually lifting. But other factors are going to include the sets and the reps that you're doing. So for me, I've been doing this for about 2 years now. I'm sticking to 10 to 20 sets to failure or close to failure per week, okay, for a specific muscle. So like if I'm training glutes, my goal is to, like if it's week 1 of a program, I will be doing 10 sets to failure, and then I will be increasing that over time, over the program that I have in place. And the way that I'll do that is I'll split my leg days up into multiple days of the week. So I'm training glutes and legs 2 to 3 times a week.
How many days total are you going to the gym per week?
So between like doing cardio and upper body, I don't do upper body that much unless like I'm training with field or like I have some other type of goal that I'm doing. So like 4 or 5 days. But I'm typically doing like three leg days. Like my goal this summer, I want to be a quad mommy. Like I'm past muscle mommy. Specifically, I want the biggest, baddest quads on the block.
Okay, and I just want to back up just, for folk like me so we can understand. So, first of all, I think one key for transgender women, stop working out your upper body, specifically your arms. I've had these guns for a little bit and they're not going anywhere, and I have not worked them out in a long time. I'm like dousing them with estrogen and T blockers. I'm like, come on, arms, go away. Like I was like really working out the arms like 8 months into my transition, a mess. The other thing you said 10 sets over the course of a week to failure. So to failure means you keep on doing it until you can't do it anymore, right?
Correct. That's exactly what it means. Or, but I also said, or close to failure. So if you're getting like, if, you can do 70 pounds for 10 reps on, X exercise. If you're doing like 8 or 7, 8, 9 reps and you're giving a lot of effort in that set, I would say that's pretty acceptable too. I would include that within the 10 that I'm accumulating over the course of a week.
And then if you're like a small girl like myself, you would want to be in a slight caloric surplus with healthy proteins being at like the front of whatever it is you're eating so that it can build into muscles appropriately. And then you said leg days. So I'm in the gym right now. My biggest focus right now, I don't really care about having big glutes, like whatever, but I am really interested in hip abduction type of exercises. And so that's where I'm putting the majority of my energy in so that my hip to, shoulder ratio is good. You have incredible like hips and you like post them. I maybe you could post one in this like edit, but is that where you're spending a vast majority of your energy, or is that where you spent it at the beginning of your transition, or like how do you distribute the different muscles?
So, what's going to be giving that illusion of bigger hips is working the glute medius and glute minimus. Those are sitting up and to the side of the glute max. So I'd be working all three of those muscles. And you're going to, in stability exercises, you will be getting a lot of glute medius and glute min activation there. So things like Romanian deadlifts, or excuse me, Bulgarian split squats, any type of those like walking lunges, those are all going to be helping with the glute medius. And then you can also do kickbacks, the abduction movements that you mentioned. Those are all going to help. The biggest flex that I've had is people accusing me of getting a BBL, and it's just staying consistent in the gym.
You
Um,
look like you have one.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So since we're doing now 2 to 3 leg days a week, we also need to give ourselves time to recover. So the general recommendation here is going to be 48 to 72 hours between sessions when you're working out those legs. So I would do something like, my typical schedule is Sunday, Tuesday, and then like Friday. That's typically my breakdown for when I'm hitting legs. Obviously, you need to do what works best for your schedule, in your lifestyle, but you're going to be maximizing gains with that 48 to 72 hour window in between your workouts.
I was actually, this could be a whole episode, but I just wanted to mention this. So, obviously, we're talking about giving yourself a more feminine figure. I think a lot of girls are considering BBLs. I want one. However, I did a lot of research and found some very interesting things. 20 to 50% of the fat that they take from you, assuming that you have enough, dies after you get the BBL. That's a lot. Then your swelling goes down. And so a lot of times the people's results are not as good as they want to. I follow this girl, Ilya Celine, I think her name is, on Instagram. And she had one hip that was wider than the other. And so she had to get a correction after. And then a lot of the girls that I'm following on TikTok about BBLs will say they got the BBL, then they lost weight, which you're not supposed to do. They lost weight and the BBL is gone and they're down 15K. So I think that everybody who's listening to this know that me and Dani work like hard on our body. We're in the gym. I'm in the gym at least 3 times per week too. I'm not trying to, you know, I don't, I'm just trying to maintain what I have basically. But I think as a trans woman, if you want a certain type of aesthetic, there's no real way around this unless you get dangerous silicone injections, which are a huge problem, and a lot of girls don't want to get them. I'm not going to get them. So keep that in mind. Like this lesson is very, very important.
Definitely. This is, I mean, it's not only for a feminine figure. This is going to be serving you for the rest of your life. It's going to help you maintain a healthy lifestyle. So,
Yeah.
there's a lot of benefit to this. So, what I think a lot of people want to know and why they would be tuning into this segment, they want to know what exercises actually to do. So,
Yeah.
when it comes to equipment, let's start there. The human body is designed to move in 3D space. So I would be switching up a lot of different things here. So I'd be using cables, barbells, dumbbells, machines. I would be using all of that to be building muscle. Um, I would I would say that lean towards exercises that are going to be providing a lot of stability for you, because stability is going to be one of the things that are going to help you build the most amount of muscle in the quickest amount of time. So when in doubt, think stability for these movements. So there's a few different types of categories that we can break these movements into. So the first one is going to be a knee dominant movement. So knee dominant, think like squats, lunges, anything with like all that that's involving the knee right there. Split squats, all of that. The next one, this is my favorite, is going to be the hip extension. Okay. So when it comes to a hip extension, think like, what can we do? Glute bridges, hip thrusts. There's all these different types of variations of it. And this is going to be when we're driving the hips forward. Okay, so you can push your hips back or push your hips forward. Hip extension, it's like you're gonna pop that pussy front. Okay,
Yeah.
so one of the most popular machines is that you got like buckle in with the seatbelt. I don't have one at my gym, but it would be fun to have. But a lot of gyms do have this machine. Something like that is good. I love doing the glute bridge just with a Smith machine. Again, a lot of stability where it allows you to get proper contractions on it and go at a great tempo. And then when I want to go for like a lot of power and speed, I'm doing hip thrust. Those are going to be my go-tos throughout the year for this type of movement. So those are the first two type of movements we have. Any questions on those?
No, those are movements that I'm like, some of them are somewhat familiar. I'm excited for us to get together in person so you can like show me how to really do this stuff.
Yeah, in between our binge drinking, this will be fun to get into the gym.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next one is hip hinge. So we talked about driving the hips forward. Now with the hip hinge, we can drive the hips back. So this is where you're thinking like a good morning, an RDL, movements like that. So you'll get some hamstring activity here as well. But if you keep a slight bend in your knee, you're going to be getting overwhelmingly glutes here. Have you, so do you know these movements? Like
No.
Romanian deadlift? Okay. So this is going
Romanian
to,
deadlift. Yeah, I do know that one.
okay. Okay. Yeah. This is probably one of the staples for glute growth here. And then to round it out, we're going to have those abduction movements. So the primary function of the glute medius is to abduct the thigh. So bring the thigh away from the midline. So any type of like that kickback movement that we just discussed, you'll be working the glute medius. And a rule of thumb, if you're doing a kickback there, to hit the glute med specifically, it's best to kick back at a 30 to 45 degree angle from the position of your hips. So kicking straight back, you're going to be hitting glute max, 30 to 45 degree angle, you'll be hitting glute med. And then to hit glute minimus, you want to be coming across your body. And, we'll provide links for all of this too, so you can see the movements in action. But those are the 4 types of movements, or categories of movements that I would do. So when it comes to that library and collection of these movements, the way that I'll structure it for clients is that we'll typically do a mesocycle. It's just a collection of weeks, typically 8 to 12 weeks per mesocycle. And we'll switch it up every 8 to 12 weeks, and we'll rotate through, for glutes, there's probably like 15 to 20 exercises that we'll stick to, but we'll always change up the type of equipment that we're using too. So we're not getting accustomed to the gains, because you need to create that variability if you want to keep making progress in the gym. So that's something that I'm a big believer in with my clients, and the way I set up the programs for myself as well.
Cool. Yeah, I can't wait to see this visually as well, because I have a bunch of different exercises to try. I kind of just like do the hip abduction machine, and I'll do like the glute bridges, I guess, and then I'm like, I don't know, like I need a big strong man or a transgender woman to show me what to do.
Yeah, we'll get the Tea Girls official workout plan up and running. But to couple that, what you have a makeup guide, a free makeup guide for everyone out there.
I do have a free makeup guide, and if you want a copy of it, you will have to either DM us your email and phone number, or leave your email address in a comment, and I'll send it to you. So, a couple of things about this makeup guide that I think are great. First of all, like when I started doing makeup, I kind of went broke doing it because I was too focused on product and not focused on technique. And I was too ashamed of asking for help. So I tried to do everything by myself, and it ended up costing me a lot of money. And I ended up running up my credit card. I would buy a bunch of different products and they wouldn't work, and I would just like throw them away basically. And so that was like a weird shame issue that I had. I was quite masculine looking when I started to do makeup, like beard, muscle, like the way I dress and all that stuff. So I was like, oh, this feels so strange, even though I was very flamboyant. And so before I talk about, some of the mistakes that I've made that you guys can avoid, Dani, what would you say was your biggest makeup mistake prior to being your lovely, illustrious self now?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say not not watching enough YouTube University. I would also not asking for help too, right? Like you need to be asking your girlfriends for help there. And if you don't have any, then YouTube is your best bet. YouTube and TikTok until TikTok gets banned permanently. But YouTube is such a great resource. In addition to your guide, Wayne Goss is someone that I looked at very early on. And then who's the guy who does J-Lo? What he has Scott Barnes. That that's also someone I watched very early on. But yeah, I think it's just just got to do a lot of practice, and using makeup that is affordable is going to be huge there. I think for me too, there was so much shame early on, like in my transition, that like my heart was beating out of my chest, like going to Sephora and asking for help. So, and like
Yeah.
I like the Peru, which is like our mall downtown. Like I finally had courage to walk in and like go ask someone for help. So like I'm like full on like the the before picture that people have seen online, and I'm asking for makeup help. Like obviously, like you can imagine, I felt a little weird about that, but like we were just talking about earlier in this episode, you gotta have court vision and you need to take that leap. So um not doing that as soon as possible and like sitting in that fear was also a huge one. So all those three collectively, I would say, would like really held me back.
So if you're not at a space where you are comfortable asking anybody for makeup help, then the first thing that you need to do is go to an online shade finder and start there. So I linked one for Maybelline's shade finder. I chose Maybelline because you can get foundations and stuff from Maybelline for under 15 bucks. Back in my day when I was starting makeup, it was like $5, $6. So um, start with the shade finder, look at the shade family that you're in. The way that you want to take your picture is in daylighting, like in front of a window with light, and with your iPhone front camera, the one that makes you look ugly. Use that, upload that picture into a shade finder, and that'll give you a foundation shade. The point of a foundation is to even your skin tone. So I remember the first time I put foundation on my face, I felt like I was the prettiest person in the world, and that goes a long way in helping you with your makeup. The the one item that I wish I had that would have saved me thousands of dollars, I'm going to tell you guys about right now. That item is white foundation, which is I bought one for several dollars from LA Girl. You can get it in the drugstore. And white foundation is important because a lot of times when you're trying to buy makeup products, they're going to turn out to be a little bit too dark. And so what's interesting is you could take that foundation, let's say you buy the wrong color and it's too dark, you add a little bit of white into it, it turns your shade. You add a little bit more white to it, it turns into a concealer shade. And so mixing items like that is going to help teach you how to balance the color on your face. When you're wearing concealer, you want it in your T-zone, so under your eyes and over here, whatever. Rather than buying a different foundation and concealer, it might be interesting for you to get a foundation. Maybe that's a little bit dark or whatever. Lighten it up to the right color of your foundation. Then all of a sudden you have a bronzer, you have a foundation, and then you lighten it a little bit more. You have a concealer. Now, that's a technique that's a little bit advanced, but the purpose of me saying that is, again, if you buy something a little bit too dark, that which happens a lot, you're going to have something to fix it so that your money doesn't get thrown down the drain.
I didn't even know that white foundation existed. Look at that. Learning something new today.
Yeah, and you can apply it to your like your eyelids, so that you can put really bright. Like if you want to have like a bright red eyeshadow day or a yellow or whatever, I like to do weird colors. It helps it show up a little bit more. So it's multifunctional, multi-use. You could use it to highlight. It's great. I in my guide, I basically split everything into 5 levels for people to play with and master. I think a big mistake that transgender girls make when they're doing makeup is they think that contour is going to help them pass. And I know I definitely did. I was marking my shit up. I'm like, I got to hide this jaw, I got to hide this. face. And makeup can help you pass for sure. A lot of girls don't get FFS and they do makeup and they do perfectly fine. A lot of girls don't. What I'll say is if you look pretty in your makeup, it's gonna make you feel good regardless. So shoot for that first. I think that's like a realistic goal. So the 5 sections I would start with, use your 5 paychecks, if you will. Transgender essentials, then base makeup, so foundation and concealer, then bringing color into your face, so bronzer and blush, then feminize your face with contour and some powder and highlighter. Then number 5, basic eyeshadow, and then the last 2 steps. This is actually like 7. Oops. Are eyebrows and eyeliner, and the very last thing to master when you're working on your makeup routine is lashes. I found lashes to be very hard, and if you glue them on wrong, they look wonky, and there's plenty of days where my lashes still look wonky. So do that last. I want to, on day 1, I would say the first couple of objects are colorless that I recommend. So the first 5 objects: mascara, clear gloss, cleanser, eye makeup remover, and cotton wipes. If you're a little CD boy, like a little masculine boy like me and Dani were before we transitioned, you want to make sure you don't have makeup residue all over your face, like guy liner all over your face when you're going into work the next day after being a little sissy at night. And so that's why I recommended that stuff. Get comfortable applying some, stuff to your eyelashes. Get comfortable putting some clear gloss on. You're going to look really pretty. And then when it's time to take it off, don't just use a makeup wipe. Use eye makeup remover so that shit is completely off your face, you little sissy. I don't know. What is your reaction to that, Dani? Were you?
No, I think those are great tips. So, I mean, it's depending on where you shop, but like for someone this is day 1, just getting started, for concealer and foundation, what brands or brand are you recommending that they go out and buy? So, like, we're talking drugstore or like Ulta here.
If you do not know what the fuck you're doing at all, I would start with drugstore everything. And basically, you want to find products that are higher coverage to help you with your problem spots or whatever. And the reason I say that is because a lot of us have beard shadow at that time. So if you choose something too light, then your beard is going to turn out like more pronounced. And with higher coverage foundations, you can dilute it with a little bit of moisturizer or whatever so that it's a little bit less. But so in my guide, I'm looking for something that is affordable, that has coverage, and that has good reviews. Everything that I recommend is provided on Amazon as well. And you just take the Maybelline foundation, test, and then you buy the makeup that's in your shade, basically. But what I started with, and I actually still like this foundation to this day, is Maybelline Superstay Full Coverage. It was strong enough to cover my beard, but also make me feel like I was wearing makeup. It's definitely on the cakier side of things. It's like a drag queen would use that makeup, but I think it'll give people the most satisfaction in trying out makeup. Do you remember what foundation you first used when you started to use foundation?
I think I bought Maybelline at Target, actually. What about color correct? Do you think that's a necessity?
It definitely is a necessity, and that's the next thing that I put on here. So the color corrector, there's a couple of different companies that do really affordable color corrector. An LA girl has an orange color corrector. So for any budding trans girl that's watching, when you have a beard, typically for most people, some people are blonde, but if you have brown hair or black hair or anything in between, your beard is going to put off a blue light. So when you put your foundation on, you'll still notice a beard shadow because it's projecting blue. So in order for me to correct it, you have to tap a little bit of orange color corrector on it. You got to blend it out a little bit. You got to let it dry. And then when you put the foundation over it, the orange cancels out the blue because that's like color theory. Now, I just want to make sure I'm not just talking to my brown and black girlies out there. Is that like, did you use orange color corrector too, or did you use more of a peach?
So I used orange. I was very bougie back in the day. I bought Lancome. Thank
Yep.
God I do not need to use color correct anymore. But yeah, that's the brand that I was using back in the day, and that's very high end, right? So like I think what you were saying, LA Girl is probably good to start off with and practice with.
Yeah, and if you're one of those higher end girlies, like what I'm using right now for my foundation is Makeup Forever. It's what a lot of influencers use for their wedding makeup. And so I'll, and also if you're like a woman of color, cis or trans, you'll still have hyperpigmentation. So I still use the LA Girl color corrector because it's fucking orange. But for foundation and concealer, I'll use Makeup Forever for foundation, and I'll use Huda Beauty for concealer. So if you're interested in more high end stuff, that's the direction I would go. And then I don't want to get too deep into this. You guys should just comment and get the guide. However, for your blushes and your what is it called, bronzers, you want to go with cream products. I think they blend a little bit easier, and they look a little bit more natural in the sunlight. A lot of times you'll notice that you'll feel like you look really good in your house while you're doing makeup under yellow lights or whatever, but when you go outside, all the lines you drew and all that stuff are very obvious. Like I overlined today. When I leave the house today, I'm wiping off these lips and I'm like putting something that the sun is not going to expose, basically. So you want to be conscientious of that. So for blush, I had like Elf has really, really good cream and liquid bronzers as well as blushes. I recommend just finding, like, Googling your race and blush and your race and bronzer and just figuring out what the best shades for you are, and those will blend well and look really pretty.
I forget what I used very early on. What are the gift boxes, like the subscription gift boxes, like for makeup? I forget which one I had way back in the day.
Ipsy, maybe.
What is it?
I had one called Ipsy.
Okay. I don't think it was Ipsy, but that's a pretty popular one. But yeah, I just got a blush from one of those boxes. Now I use the NARS Orgasmic one, I think it's called.
Nice.
But yeah, I think just like a simple one. I remember buying an Elf one too. Like just starting off, Elf has great products. Like for
Really good.
for just getting started, and just like they have makeup remover too, right? That's Elf that everyone loves. That's the one I have upstairs. So yeah, can't go wrong with Elf. I remember buying a lot of Elf back in the day.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. And I would say, like, depending on your comfort level. So if you're completely in the closet, definitely buy from Amazon, and you can use my guide for that. That's what it's built for. If you are a little bit more comfortable, I recommend going to Ulta, because Ulta will show you all the drugstore stuff. But if you want higher end stuff for specific things, they have makeup people. You can do a mixture of higher end and lower end. And then if you got a lot of money to spare, go to Sephora. You'll get the boutique products, but I still recommend going in the order of my guide, because you're not quite like ready for everything. So if you want to go slowly, start with your eyelashes, like mascara and lipstick, then add some foundation with those three, and then just go. You just got to practice makeup every day. It's kind of like being in the gym. You got to keep doing it until you get something that works for you down, and then you have it.
Oh my God. I remember during the pandemic when I was on furlough, I was doing makeup every single night.
Yeah.
Also, I need to plug this favorite drugstore bronzer, Physicians Formula. Like
Oh,
nothing,
I really.
nothing smells better than that. Oh my God, it smells so good.
I like that. And you guys, you also have to kind of like decide your makeup vibe. I think some of the girls like a natural look, so that's going to make different makeup, and some women like a drag queen look. I mean, they do, and I'm one of those. I like big colors, different whatever, but you got to switch it up. I'm turning 33 this year, and I'm in corporate a lot, so you'll notice. And I've been transitioned to the point where crazy makeup is not appealing to me. I'm just trying to throw some shit on and go. Today I put on concealer, blush, some eye stuff, and lipstick, and I got on the podcast because I have time to kill here. So your makeup choices evolve over time, but I think that if you want to not embarrass yourself, go slow and start off with easy products.
Yeah, you don't have to go out looking like Michaela every single day. Um, but yeah, I'm definitely one of the people who like prefers a more simple look. Like
Yeah.
the look of like wearing makeup to make it look like you're not wearing makeup, that kind of thing. But like you do such a beautiful artistic work. So like it goes a long way to show that like, yes, doing practice every single day, it's gonna take you a long way in your journey and your ability.
Thank you, my friend. That is very, very sweet. I get, a lot of trans women get comments sometimes that they are more passable when they have like light makeup on versus heavy. So that's something to consider too. I think like you don't need to know as much as you think you might need to in order to do a good job. So just keep that in mind, but it is necessary to put in the work. I'm just like Dani. When it was the pandemic, I was working out every day, and I was also practicing makeup every day. And I was buying a bunch of clothes and trying to see what worked. And a lot of the stuff that I used to buy is not stuff that I would wear now. So it is a process. You have to experiment, and also you have to make sure you get feedback from people who have your best interests in mind.
I know I mentioned this on a previous podcast, but save your money and do not go wild with buying clothing. You're not going to wear 90% of that shit. Like when you get
Yeah.
further along in your transition, like you just aren't. Like I know it's fun in the moment, but it's not going to really serve you long term. And you just need to be aware of that. But like save that money, put it into makeup and practice. That is going to serve you in the long run. So
One of the things that's on my like list of things to make or write about, maybe I'll do it in the next couple of months, is like a unclockable um like a gender neutral clothing guide that works for they thems and trans women, because I think going from hyper mass to hyper femme, it draws the wrong type of attention. But if you go into a space where you're growing your hair and you wear more gender neutral clothes, especially if you are more masculine, you end up passing a lot better while not getting the negative attention that you would normally get. So what that would look like is getting those like wide legged like baggy pants with like a tight, like if you can pull it off, like a cropped kind of look, full arm length, like layers, like just clothing that's a little bit more neutral, that helps cover your masculine, emphasize your feminine, but not more than you can pull off, basically.
yeah, I remember when I first started going out presenting femme, like it was Converse, jeans, and like a jacket. And then like I forget if I was wearing like hip hats or not, but like soon like I really didn't even need those, right? So that's like a
Right.
very tomboyish look. So yeah, I agree with that. Firsthand experience, it definitely helps a lot.
Yeah, just exactly. That's what I would say too. Be more of a aim for tomboy at first, and then slowly aim for girl. Because even like in a lot of my dresses, like my best friend sent me a picture of myself a few years ago before I started estrogen, I thought I was sickening that day, but I didn't wear any boob padding and my fucking arms were like roided out and I was like, holy fuck, I look crazy. But that's just gonna happen when you transition. But if I focused on like the style that I have now, if I applied that to that same body, it would have looked really, really good. So
All right. Awesome. So, any final words on this before we get into our next segment?
don't bite off more than you can chew, ladies.
Wise advice. Okay, Nalea. So we have everyone's favorite segment, Reddit. Reddit questions. So, I have a silly one today.
Okay.
I want to hear what you would do in this situation. Title: I accidentally got into bed with my father-in-law. And underneath, advice needed. Okay. My father-in-law is staying with us for a few days. We gave him our room while he's here. It's bigger and we just felt it was the right thing to do. Last night he went to bed and my wife and I were downstairs watching TV and drinking. She went up a while later too, and I said, I'll be up soon. I'm pretty tipsy at this point. As I went upstairs, sleepiness and my tipsy state meant I forgot that my father-in-law was in our room. I entered the room and got naked, which is how I sleep. I saw a figure curled up in the bed and got next to it, wrapping my arms around what I thought was my wife to see if she was up to sex. He's a light sleeper and turned around immediately saying, Chris? Oh my fucking god. I jumped out and fell for. It was dark and for some reason I decided to get dressed there rather than run to my guest room where my wife was. I stumbled over my clothes and somehow got them back on. By this time, he got the table lamp on and was just looking at me with a what the fuck expression. I said sorry and went to my wife. I didn't wake her. I've just got up this morning and I'm typing this in bed with a massive hangover and a father-in-law who I tried to spoon probably talking shit about me to my wife downstairs. I have to go downstairs. Any idea what to do or how to address it?
Wow. So you're not even a motherfucker. You're a fatherfucker. Weirdo. Sorry, I should be mean to people asking questions. That's hilarious. It's iconic. It is sus, and it's very uncomfortable. Unfortunately, it's your home, and the man was sleeping in your bed. He should have been in the the guest room. And yeah, you wanted to get some poom poom from your wife, and I guess you ended up, with the man next to you. So if I were in your shoes, I would just own up to it, tell my wife, and just make jokes about it. And it's going to be awkward and just let the moment pass. The man's in your house, he's in your bed. You had a little gropey gropey. I mean, your wife comes from his loins anyway, so what's the big deal? Um, so just own up to it, make it a funny situation. But if I was a wife, if you're listening, you need to hack into this man's phone and check his search history, because if there's any sort of DILF, gay, femboy, whatever in it, girl, you in danger. You in danger. You better watch out and divorce, and don't let that man around your husband, even if that man is your dad. So I'm looking out for you, sis. Like, watch very carefully.
This is a Modern Family episode, like to a T. This is something that you would see on that show. Yeah, gonna be super awkward going downstairs to breakfast for the first time, but this is something that they're gonna laugh at Thanksgiving and Christmas like 10 years down the road. And it's gonna be the funniest fucking thing that they ever talk about. So yeah, just gotta power through this little awkward moment, and then it's gonna be fine. I think, hopefully.
Love.
Okay, do you want to do one more?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Let's see. Uh, on a scale of 1 to 10, how serious do you want to get?
Oh, let's do a 2, not very serious.
Well, they're both like somewhat serious. So I guess like scale of 5 to 10.
Okay, let's just go 10.
All right, this one's deep. Um, I accidentally found out I'm trans and it's ruining my life. Underneath this, venting. Last year, I enrolled in therapy at 28 after I got a handle on my career and life circumstances, with the aim to really go as deep as I could possibly go into my psyche and tackle the chronic depression I've had for the last decade and eventually taper off my reliance of SSRIs. Eventually, I was able to taper off completely, and I made lots of progress in therapy on myself, my relationships with others, my identity. And despite the progress I made, I still felt a lot of self-hatred and shame towards myself. After a few months of therapy, I started taking on more meditation with the goal of meditating on a lot of internal shame I felt about myself. One evening a few months ago, I was meditating, and in a brief moment where the internal shame I felt about myself dissipated, it clicked for me, and I knew in the exact moment that I was trans. My internal sense of self is female. I read through the genderdysphoria.fyi, and pretty much all my experiences, which I thought were me just being a little bit odd, match up with other trans women's experiences of what was really just gender dysphoria the entire time. Having come to the realization I'm doing objectively far worse now than I have been in years, I can barely function at work. My work colleagues are seeing me visibly struggle on a day-to-day to hold it together and are probably wondering what the fuck is going on with me. I'll take the train to work and see women who get to be pretty, and I just want to fucking cry. I tried going back to the gym and working out again, and I literally teared up on my bike ride home, mortified at the thought of putting on muscle and looking more masculine. I've had to ditch and ghost numerous friends and family who I know wouldn't be accepting. I'm currently seeing 2 therapists, one who specializes in gender care, and my doctor had me back on SSRIs. But I can't help but just feel absolutely fucking horrible all the time, and it feels like I've genuinely ruined my life with this realization. I was doing completely fine before, but no matter how hard I try to put the genie back in the bottle, I can't, and the dysphoria comes back worse than ever. I hate being this way, and I wish I had never found out about this. Um, Edit. Just woke up from a difficult sleep. Thanks everyone for the kind and thoughtful comments. It's made my mood a little bit better. So, what comments would you like to add to this story?
It's very simple. You are anticipating the future too much and it's making you extremely anxious. That's all it comes down to. I have an incredibly large amount of compassion for you. I've been there, and so is Dani. So we totally get it. I'm just giving it to you plain, straight no chaser from an outside perspective. You're too far into the future because you're over here thinking about the friends you're going to lose and what's going to happen at work and all this stuff, which those are important things to have thoughts about. But today, you have to go to work. Today, you have to take care of your body. Today, you might have to feed your dog. You might have to call your mom. That's what you have to do today. And so, the first piece of advice that I would give anybody who's come across this realization is to read The Power of Now so that you can condition yourself into living one day at a time so that you're not experiencing all of this crazy anxiety. Anytime you're feeling anxiety like that, it's because you're too far ahead into the future and those circumstances are not relevant to you. The next thing is, don't jump to conclusions with this stuff. Take it one day at a time. Me and Dani talk about this all the time. Okay, today you have to do this, that, and the third. All right, now I'm going to go to Target, pick up a mascara and some eye makeup remover. Maybe I'll try that in the mirror today and see if that's going to feel good. If it does, do something else the next day, the next week, whatever it is. If it doesn't, put it down and again, focus on your day to day. So live in the present. It's going to give you all of the answers that you need. And don't be so far ahead in the future. There's a universe in which a vast majority of people in your life don't throw you away. They'll accept you. That exists somewhere. I mean, what happened to me when I came out as trans is everybody in my circle, my close circle, got closer to me. So anything is possible, but musing too far ahead of the future is not the answer. One thing that you're doing well that I like is you're reaching out to people in the community, and that's giving you a sense of catharsis. Do that. Connect with other people who have been through this sort of thing with you. And to the extent that it heals you a little bit and comforts you, keep doing it. If it gives you more anxiety, stop, and one day at a time.
Very wise words. Yeah, I mean, so to drill down on something that you said, like going to pick up the mascara, practicing that, if that helps with your dysphoria, build on that, build momentum and take a step forward, right? And try something a little bit more challenging and see if that helps you. And if it doesn't, okay, now you know your threshold, go back to meditating, being in therapy. And, you know, when I was very early on in my transition, something that you just said triggered that. Whereas, like, if you're in a situation that's making you super anxious, like, I was going to a group therapy and the doom and gloom that was being perpetuated from the people in that group, it was making me more anxious. So I had to stop going to that group. So do not put yourself in those types of situations. It's only going to make you feel worse about yourself and your situation. You have so much power and you can do so much that, you know, like, it really is unbelievable what we're capable of. And with just staying in the moment and not playing these movies like in our heads about what's going to happen, like, honestly, I was very, very masculine before I transitioned, and like, I was in frat bro culture. Like, I'm still friends with most of those people, right? Like, who would have thought that like a group of frat bros would be accepting of that? It's wild. And like, I could have never imagined that, but I still had to go through with it. And if they're not going to accept you, like, do you really want them in your life anyways? Right? Like, is that the type of person that you want to associate with? So I would take that approach. It helps so much with the anxiety coming from someone who has chronic anxiety. Like, it helps a ton. Take small steps, build on the momentum, set yourself up for success with good situations, and you'll be okay.
1,000%. Just one day at a time. You're already a practitioner of meditation and all of those things. So you just gotta use that practice to get yourself to where you were before. Don't let this loom over your head. And me and Dani both have had some losses through being transgender, but mostly it's been a big win for both of us, which is why we're still, we would go through extreme lengths, I think, the both of us, to live our truth, but it feels better to live my life now than it did before. That's just how it is. So there is a sunrise beyond the horizon if you keep going.
Awesome. Okay, Nalea, what are our closing words here? Where can people find us?
Yeah. So my TikTok and Instagram, you can search me up at tranalytics. And our shared TikTok and Instagram is tea.girls.pod. I always get this wrong. And if you want to go to my website where my blog is, it's tranalytics.biz. I'm going to pass the mic over to Dani so she can get it right.
It is tea.girls.pod. And I changed our handle on YouTube. It is now the Tea Girls with the capital X. It was like the Tea Girls 2024. Figured the X was better. It's fine. If you just type in the Tea Girls podcasts, we're going to come up. We are very SEO friendly. As the #1 trans podcast out there. That sounds made up, but we'll go with it. And small request, please share this with someone you love. This is going to be the best way to help us grow. We have some big things planned for the rest of the year and heading into 2025. It is going to be a wild ride. I can't believe it's been a month that we've been doing this. And the amount of love that we've gotten so far, a few haters, which we also feed off of. So please keep hating. We love you guys too. But yes, all the love. Thank you so much for it. It is like, it's unbelievable. And it keeps us going. So thank you for all of that. Please share these episodes. And we will see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.